Cliptos, I'm asking for your support and leaving a rating and review on whatever platform you listen on. Rating and reviews encourage newcomers to check out the show. So please, if you're feeling it, go ahead and drop a 5-star review. I would appreciate that. And I appreciate all your support. It motivates me to keep going, and it helps keep the show alive. So in this episode, I'm covering podcast intros and outros. What are they? How do you create one? What's the purpose of them? And how can you use them to hook in your listeners and build more engagement? What up, and welcome to Clipped. I'm Eric, your podcasting coach, and I'm bringing you podcast production tips, education, and industry insights to help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast. What's up, guys? I'm back this week talking about intros and outros. So there's a couple techniques that people use to kick off their shows, and I'm covering the basics and then a couple ways to drive more engagement, spruce things up, because you don't want your listeners to get bored. So using a couple different things that I'm going to cover is a great way to keep your listeners engaged, keep them excited, and keep them from skipping your intro, because let's face it, a lot of people brush past intros, and we don't want that. We want them to listen to what you're saying, we want them to stay engaged, and we want them to be excited for what's going to come. So the first way to kick off the show is the most basic, and it's probably the one you're most familiar with. It's the stock intro. And when I say stock intro, I'm referring to like a pre-recorded clip of the host welcoming listeners. It's like the opening to the show, the theme song, if you will. You're going to hear it at the top of every episode, the generic thing that plays. And the goal of it is to let everyone know who you are and what the podcast is about. Sometimes these have music, sometimes they don't. I'm a big fan of having music. In fact, having really good music. But you want to keep these to like 30 seconds. You don't want them to drag on too long because you'll lose people. How many times before have you listened to a podcast where the host and the intro just seems to be talking forever? Those are the ones that usually get skipped. So I don't want you going more than a minute. And honestly, I think like 30 seconds is the sweet spot. I think if you can't get your intro across in 30 seconds, you need to rewrite it, rethink about the way that you're opening the show and greeting people. Some important things to include. You obviously want to say your name. You want to tell everybody what the show is about. And for this, I follow the Xyz format, or I'm working on following the Xyz format. To be completely honest, I know that my intro needs work. And after listening and talking to Adam from the Podcasting Business School, I've been brainstorming some new ways to start the show and different ways that I can create a better listening experience with my intro. So stay tuned. Future episodes, I'm going to be switching it up. I'm working on how to create a killer intro that's going to keep everyone engaged and excited. And more importantly, new listeners, going to let them know what the show is about and reel them in. So there's two ways to do the XYZ format. The first one is the most basic. This is a show about X, and it's interesting because of Y and Z. For instance, this is a show about how to trade stocks, where I cover what's happening in the financial markets to educate investors. Okay. Say your name. Hey, welcome to Trading Stocks Podcast. My name is Eric Montgomery. I'm your host. This is a show about how to trade stocks, where I cover what's happening in the financial markets to help educate investors. Maybe the music swells up, comes down. That's short and sweet. Less than 30 seconds, right to the point. Said my name. This is obviously fictional. Said my name, what the show is about, and why it's interesting, why you should listen. And that's pretty solid. That's a good way to start a show. That's a good stock intro that you could cut into every episode. But the other XYZ format, I think, is a little bit stronger. This is a show about X, where I show you how Y will get you Z results. And this is especially good for like if you're a coach, or if you have products or services that you're offering, and your podcast is really a way to promote that stuff and to get listeners and audience members bought into your ecosystem, where they're going to fall in love with you as a creator. They're going to trust you. They're going to trust that you're knowledgeable and an expert in what you have to offer. And you're kind of like it's not shady, but you're kind of like introducing a little bit of FOMO, where they think that by listening to your show, and hopefully this is true, hopefully you're not bullshitting them, by listening to your show, they're going to learn everything that they need to multiply their results or to sell more products. Think of it like this, using that trading stock example. Welcome to the How to Trade Stocks podcast. My name is Eric Montgomery. I'm your host. This is a podcast where I teach you how to trade stocks and give you my personal playbook to double or 10x your income. So once again, let's change that last line. Welcome to How to Trade Stocks. My name is Eric Montgomery. I'm your host. This is a podcast where I teach you how to trade stocks and give you my personal playbook to 10x your income. So that's a little stronger. That's an example of, okay, if I'm new, I'm listening to this show and I'm interested in trading stocks and I want to make more money. Now I'm hooked in. 10x my income. That's fantastic. Who doesn't want to 10x their income? Giving the listener that confidence that, if I listen to this show, I'm going to learn how the host can help me with his or her personal expertise to get amazing results. So once again, this is a show about X where I show you how Y will get you Z results. And I realize this might not fit for every type of podcast. It really kind of depends on what your show is about. But nonetheless, the XYZ format is a great way to think about how to create the stock intro for your show. You can tweak it to whatever works best for you and your brand and your audience and the type of podcast that you have. But I think that's a great way to start, a great way to kick off how to create an intro if you are confused or were looking for help, really. This is just a personal thing, but I think every show needs some kind of music. So I think every stock intro, theme, generic intro, whatever you want to call it, the main thing that gets cut into every episode needs music, because I think music is part of your branding. And in the podcast world, they talk about sonic branding. And sonic branding is the voices, sounds, and music that people associate with you and your brand. I'm also a musician. I have a big music background. I think music helps create a vibe. It helps tell a story. It helps with your brand and who you are. And I think choosing the right music for your show, for the type of show, for who your target audience is important, because people are going to identify with that. And a lot of times just liking the music of a theme song makes it more enjoyable to listen to. Where you insert this stock intro is a different story. I mean, the easiest thing to do is just drop it at the top of your episode. But I think there's a more effective way to open the show before you even get to the stock intro. And that's with the cold open. There's a couple ways to do this. And again, it's going to depend on the kind of show you have, but promoting an offer, that's a great way to start. Start with introducing a new product or service that you want listeners to check out. So maybe you have a freebie for your audience. For example, I have the 4 Pillars of Podcasting. That's an ebook, and it's free. If people sign up for my mailing list on my website, they get an automated download. So you could tell listeners, hey guys, just want to let you know that I have a free ebook for you on my website. It's called The 4 Pillars of Podcasting. It's going to help you take your podcast concept from idea through launch. And I do that by breaking down what I call are the 4 pillars. That is the necessary framework to start a podcast. And that's pre-production, production, post-production, and launch. So if you need help getting your show off the ground, this book is going to have everything that you need to arm yourself with the education and knowledge to launch and continue to grow a successful podcast. I just spitballed that, but that's the idea. Or you could open with like a digital download. Maybe you have templates that you're selling, or maybe you have a new product. Maybe you have a t-shirt company and you've got a new line of shirts out. So you're going to start the show off talking about your product. Before we get started today, just want to let you know that I've got a few production templates up for sale on the website. These are going to help you organize your show. They're going to help with your team's workflow. They're going to help with scheduling, booking guests, social media posting, and they're for sale on the web right now at XYZ, and they cost XYZ. Boom. That's another example. Obviously, do it better than that, but I'm just freestyling here. Or maybe you're a coach. Hey guys, next week, starting the first week of October, I'm offering coaching sessions. These are going to be group coaching sessions to anyone that's struggling to get their podcast off the ground. If you'd like to, these are free sessions, and if you'd like to be a part of them, please go to my website and hit the sign up button and give them the landing page or the website, whatever it is. So you would literally open the show with just you talking, 30 seconds, a minute might even be too long. I'd cut it to like 30 seconds. You're going to do your spiel, then boom, you're going to cut to that stock opening, that theme music. That's going to build up, and then you're going to go into your episode. So that's a great way to start this show with a cold open if you're promoting something, if you have an offering. If it's an interview show, then I think a great way to open the show is with a guest intro, doing an explanation of what to expect in the interview, who the guest is. Today, I'm talking with Chris Palmer. That's a made-up name. And Chris is the founder of this new taco spot that's open in LA. Since we're a food podcast, I wanted to put him on your radar. He's been written about in such and such food blog. And today in this interview, we're going to be talking about his journey to opening this taco stand, his training as a chef, and why I think you're going to love the food that he's putting out. Boom. Cut to the theme song. For interview shows, another great way to do a cold open is to cut like a 15 or 30 second clip from the conversation that you had that is going to get listeners to think, maybe get listeners to laugh, get listeners to really just be intrigued, or cut in something that's kind of in disguise going to tell the audience what they can expect to hear in the interview, in the conversation, without actually telling them what is going to happen in the conversation. It's a teaser. It's a great tool. A lot of podcasters do it, and honestly, I'm a big fan of it. The next one is a call to action intro. So this is a cold open where you literally start the show asking for something. Hey guys, would love for you to subscribe to the newsletter. I'm putting out a lot of great content about how to launch a podcast. I'm providing tips and education, and I'm also going to be interviewing podcast industry experts, and they're going to be helping you get your podcast off the ground. Go to my website. There'll be a pop-up when you land on the page, and please subscribe to our newsletter. Or you could ask for a rating or review. I would love for you to rate and review the podcast. Ratings and reviews help new listeners get excited. Ratings and reviews help build trust. And when new potential listeners see that, they're more inclined to check out my show. So if you listen on Apple, Spotify, or whatever platform that you like, I would appreciate that love and that support. And I think it's important too to only do one call to action. If you start mentioning a ton of stuff, people will tune out, they'll get confused, they'll get annoyed. Hey guys, my handle on Instagram is at the Podcast Haven. Would love for you to check it out. Also got some great content on the blog. Go to the podcasthaven.blog. You can check me out there. Also, please rate and review the podcast. Would love for you to do that. Got a lot of great content. Would love for you to share a 5-star review. Check out this killer guest that I interviewed in the last couple episodes. If you missed it, would love for you to go back and check out and download that episode. It's too much. It almost sounds kind of, maybe kind of pathetic. I don't know. When the host, not pathetic, but I just think you don't need to pitch everyone so hard. Dude, if people like you and they like your show and they're kind of bought into like your ecosystem and what it is that the podcast is, how you're helping them, they're going to find all that stuff. One per episode, I think is good. You don't want to overwhelm people. I would also try and switch up how you say things. If you're going to do a similar cold open for like a month's worth of episodes, say it a little different each time. I tend to say what up too much. What up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. Hey, Cliptomaniacs. Hey, Clippers. What's up? What's up, Clippies? Hey, beautiful people. How are you doing today? Welcome to the show. I don't know. Use your personality. Just be natural. Talk to the audience. If you say something different, for me personally, when the host does that, it draws me in. When it sounds the same every time, I'm more apt to like skip through it because I've heard it before and it doesn't sound that unique. Okay, we covered the stock intro. We covered the cold open and the different ways to do the cold open, whether that's promoting an offer, doing a guest intro, or having some kind of call to action. Those are kind of like the 3 main things that I think you should focus on if you're going to do a cold open. And I think they all work really well. I would play around with those in various episodes and kind of build like a structure to how you do them. So let's talk about outros. Outros are a little bit easier in the way that I do them. I like mixing things up with how I say my outros. I also like mixing up the music. I'm personally not a huge fan of the stock outro. We talked about the stock intro where it's like the theme that plays and it's that sonic branding that people identify with. I'm personally not a fan of doing that for the outro. Some people do, but I think it resonates more to mix it up. You could thank people for listening. That's a great way to sign off. If it's an interview podcast, you could mention where to find the guest, give them a shout out for their website, their book, wherever you want to link your listeners to learn more about the guest. That's a great way to sign off. Or you could mention where people can find you. I wouldn't mention too many things. Again, I would keep it solid. Hey guys, you can find me at thepodcasthaven.com to learn more about my company and the products and services that we offer. You could have the same music play from the intro, or rather pick a piece of music that always plays in the outro. And, you could say these things while you fade up the music and then up and out. Since I'm an audio engineer and editor, I can cut in different music quickly. So I like the idea of using different music depending on the mood. Honestly, if it's like a dope song and I want to play it for people, like usually instrumental, a cool beat to go out on. Yeah, I think little things like that just keep variety to the show, keeps variety to your outros. People tend to skip outros. I don't know if I mentioned this, but yeah, one thing to be aware of is that people drop off a lot. So you don't want to save your most important thing to say at the end of the show. You want to say that in the beginning. That's it for me today, guys. Thank you for listening. And if you're digging the show, again, I would love your support in leaving a rating and a review on your podcast listening app of choice. And for more information about me and my services and offerings, go to thepodcasthaven.com, and I will see you next week.